Hi Year 10, this video is about finding the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is when you've got a quadratic and you draw the parabolic shape. So for example, you might draw something that looks like this. The axis of symmetry is the line that runs straight down through the center of this, so that on either side we have a symmetrical shape going on. So say we had this and we drew a line straight down there. That's the axis of symmetry, because on either side this equation is symmetrical. It's not the axis, could be the axis if the axis runs straight through the middle of the parabola, but it's just the line that goes straight through so that either side is symmetrical. So how do we find it? Well, if we have the x-intercepts, it makes sense that the middle of that parabola is actually in between the x-intercepts. So in this case we have the x-intercept x equals -1 and x equals 3. That's where that parabola cuts the x-axis. So our axis of symmetry then is just going to be halfway in between that. So what we do is our axis of symmetry is x equals, we add together our x-intercepts, so we go 1 plus 3, -1 plus 3 over 2, and we divide it by 2 because it's going through the middle. -1 plus 3 is 2, so we just get 2 over 2, which is 1. So our axis of symmetry is x equal to 1. Now if we have this one down here, this example, we've got y equals x take 5 and x plus 1. So the first thing we have to do is 1, find the x-intercept, and 2, average it. If we average the x-intercepts, we'll get the axis of symmetry. So if we've got something of this form, remember that the x-intercepts is when y is equal to 0. So I'm going to go x take 5 times x plus 1 doesn't equal y anymore, it equals 0. So therefore, x take 5 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. And if x take 5 is equal to 0, that means x equals 5. If x plus 1 equals 0, that means x equals -1. So that's our x-intercepts, and then to find our axis of symmetry, we're going to add those together. So our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 5 plus -1 over 2, which is x equals 4 over 2, which is equal to 2. We've got one final example here. Here you'll notice that we've only got one x-intercept. We've got x take 3 all squared. If we equate that to 0, we're going to get x take 3 equals 0, so we're going to get x equals 3 as our x-intercept. That in actual fact will look like something like this. It will look like that, with our graph actually touching the point 3 but not cutting. It touches the x-axis at point 3. So in that case, the axis of symmetry is actually the same as your x-intercept. So your x-intercept for this one, x equals 3, because x take 3 equals 0, therefore x equals 3. And so your axis of symmetry is x equals 3. So that's those types. When you get a picture with an x-intercept, or you get it in this form where it's factorized, you find the x-intercept and you average it. If, however, it's in this form down the bottom here, if we look at this form, you notice it's a bit different. It's not factored. Alright? If we have something in this form, we'll do this one over here and that one over there. We use a formula. We use the formula x equals -b over 2a. Now remember, a is the number in front of the x squared, so a is 2 in this case. B is the number in front of the x, so b equals 3. So x is going to equal -3 over 2a, or 2 times 2, which equals -3 over 4. What about the other one? Well, it's very similar. It should be 4x squared. 4x squared plus 2x plus 5. A is the number in front of the x, so a is 4. B is the number in front of the x, so b is 2. A is the number in front of x squared. So x equals -b over 2a, which equals -2 over 2 times 4, which equals -2 over 8, which is -1/4. And that's the answer. So in some in summary for all of this, if we're finding axis of symmetry, to find it, if we have a graph or the quadratic is factored. And if the quadratic is factored, that means that we will have some brackets. So if the quadratic is factored, that means we'll have brackets. Alright, so that was those first two examples when we had the graph like this. We had a graph and we had the x-intercepts marked, or we have something of the form y equals x take 2, x take 3. We have some brackets going on. Then we find the x-intercepts. Find the x-intercepts, and 2, we average them. Then, if our quadratic though is in standard form, and standard form just means like normal form. That means something of the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Then we just use the equation x equals negative b over 2a. So that's the axis of symmetry is going to be found using that equation. Hope that helps you find the axis of symmetry.